Good evening, Mr. Cosmos. I'm sorry for taking so long to make this video, but I'm here and I'm ready to impress. So unfortunately, I don't have editing skills to make this video as good as I want it to be, but I hope this can be good enough. So hello, I'm Kamji and I'm gonna be giving a book report on The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, written by Mark Twain. So first off, I love this book. Okay, let's talk about the author. The author, Mark Twain, whose real name is Samuel Langhorne Clemens. Mark Twain was a persona that he made up, and that's well, most people don't actually know that it's not his real name, and his real name is Samuel Langhorne. Some fun facts about him. Mark Twain was he took 7 years to write The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It took him that long. He was a miner at some point in his life, and he was also a steamboat pilot. And you can see him in his books, especially in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I'll just call it Huckleberry Finn from this point on to keep it short. He actually there's a lot of boat travel, and there's a lot of steamboat talk, or there's a lot of steamboat representation in his book. So it's nice to see him taking a real part of his life and putting it into his book. So yeah, and basically, and another fun fact is that at some point he had 17 cats at the same time. But yeah, that's just Mark Twain. He was born in November 30th, 1835, and he died in April 21st, 1910. And yeah, he had a wife and he had some children. So let's get into the book itself. So Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, this is the plot. So basically, the books it starts off with Huckleberry Finn. I'll just call him Finn from now on. The main character of the story, getting abandoned by his father, which the book calls Papa Finn. But he is soon adopted and taken in by a widow called Douglas, and she's known as Widow Douglas throughout the movie. So throughout the book, sorry. So basically, she loves, although it might not look like it when reading, but you can tell at the end that she really loves and cherishes Finn a lot, and she tries to basically give him everything that he didn't have, or he didn't experience when he was with his father, and she tried civilizing him a lot. But to Finn, this came off as too much, and it was restraining his freedom, so he decided to run away. As he ran away, he happened to come across a slave who was trying to escape, because this who was trying to escape from his slave owners, and the name of the slave was Jim. So basically, the whole premise of the story is that as he meets up with Jim, they basically go on all these wacky adventures, and in the end, Jim ends up escaping and becomes a free person. And then instead of Finn going back home, he has a realization that he really just wants to live his life and be free and not be held down by anything. So he decides to set off and go to the west, or travel towards the west of America, which he feels that he'll be free and no one will be able to hold him down at all. So the setting, the book takes place in St. Petersburg, Missouri, and this is southern United States. That's why they were Jim was a slave, because the southern people loved slaves a lot. And basically, but Mark Twain based the location based on his hometown, which was actually Hannibal, Missouri. So yeah, and basically most of the adventures between Huckleberry Finn and Jim take place on the Missouri River, and they pass through Illinois, and yeah, that's basically most of it. So that's it for the setting. When it comes to the themes, though, this book has a lot of themes. The first theme that I would like to address would be around racism and slavery. So racism and slavery were obviously dealt upon, given the fact that the story deals with Jim trying to escape. So you can see that for the time period, obviously slaves are obviously allowed in America, but you can see that the book takes an open approach. From the book is more open-minded, saying that Jim should be free and he's a normal human being, and he shouldn't be a slave, and everyone has a right to be free. And you can see that Finn tries to help him along his journey, even though he might get he might get insults and everything else from all his fellow um, white people, but like he doesn't let that stop him, and he still tries to help Jim. Another theme that I would like to talk about would be basically the hypocrisy of civilized society. So basically, the whole reason Finn runs away is because he feels like the place in which he lives in the hometown, like there are too many rules that just don't make sense, are not necessary. One rule I like to look at is when the at the beginning of the book, when the judge, where there's like a battle of custody over Finn, and like it's Finn's father, and they take him to court, and like the judge decides that Finn's father, which is a very reckless man and has no and cares not for Finn's well-being, and he decides to give Finn's father basically custody over Finn, because he says that he's his father and it's his natural right because it's his son, which doesn't make sense, because in the end we should really be looking at the welfare of Finn rather than just because it's his father means that he should hold him. That shouldn't be right. And like that's what drives Finn away from the area in the first place. It says that there's just this bunch of rules that don't make sense, and people are just trying to enforce them for no reason, even though they shouldn't be enforced. So that's the reason why Finn runs away. Another another theme could be seen as empathy, and empathy seen is when Finn, who is a reckless boy, finally takes a look at the situation and looks, and he starts to understand or tries to put himself in Jim's shoes, and that's why he even decides to help Jim in the first place, help Jim on his journey, because he sees that he starts to understand slavery and says that this is wrong, and realistically he puts himself in the position saying that I just ran away for not wanting to be tied down, where this man has been probably tied down for his entire life and be forced to do manual labor, which is even worse than my position. So we can see that Finn grows up for a moment and like puts himself in someone else's shoes. So that's empathy. So those are like the major themes I got from the book. I like to talk about the characters. So the characters I would like to talk about are three main characters, which would be Jim, Finn, and the Douglas. So Finn is a very high-spirited character, although he's not mentally okay, how will I phrase this? Although he's not the sharpest person around, he's not the smartest around, he's still a very kind person, and we see this when he empathizes with Jim and Jim's situation. He's also a very free-spirited person and doesn't like to be held down, hence the reason he even left the hometown in the first place. And yeah, Finn is just a very good and lovable character. Although he can be very stubborn sometimes, in the end he always pulls through and understands what he's doing and always tries to make the best decision for those around him. Jim is a very stern character. Jim, when we're first introduced to Jim in the book, he's very stern and not untrustworthy, given the fact that he's a slave, which is very understandable. He just met someone who's white and he shouldn't trust him because he's trying to escape. But over time, Jim opens up and he really shares his story and his life with Finn, and you can just see this nice bond form between the both of them. And finally, I'd like to discuss the Douglas. Now, the Douglas is a character who loves Finn very much, as she tries to provide Finn with everything a boy that age will normally want, which is like all the fine clothes. But like the problem is that she let her love blind her from seeing what Finn actually wanted, because Finn clearly didn't like these clothes, and he felt that the clothes, like the type of clothes she gave him, he felt like the clothes were too tight and very uncomfortable, and he didn't like the institutions and everything. But she wanted him, but she thought that was the best for him, so she tried to force it upon him, which really just didn't allow her to see that Finn didn't want this. And I feel like it could have been avoided, but like, yeah, that's it. But like, I feel like she understood that after he left, but it was already too late. So basically, I personally love this book because I don't know, it just resonated with me because it was a fun read as well. Like there was this quote that Finn said that really spoke to me, which was I'll read it out here. It's, people would call me a low down abolitionist and despise me for keeping mum, but that don't make no difference. So basically, translating that to normal English, because Finn was like from the south, so he had an accent. basically he was trying to say that people who criticize him and called him a basically like a nigger lover, or like just insult him for being around Jim and trying to help Jim. But he said that he doesn't care what people say, and he doesn't care what people think about him, and it doesn't really change the fact that he's gonna help Jim and try to help Jim. So this really speaks to me as seeing that Jim was oppressed, and the fact that Finn stepped up to the plate and said that he really didn't care what society thought about him, but he really cared about what he thought about himself, whether he thought he was doing the right thing or not. So that really spoke to me. I would 10 out of 10 recommend this book. And because of how much I love this book, I've actually started reading a new book, which is called The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which is basically, Tom Sawyer is actually a friend of Huckleberry Finn as well. But this is like another book that Mark Twain released. So it's really got me interested. I'm 110 out of 10. Recommend this book to everyone. This book is a really good read, and I loved it, honestly. Fortunately, I couldn't add pictures or anything, but I hope you enjoyed my presentation. This was a good read. Thank you.